What's good, brothers and sisters? Welcome back to the MatchNet podcast. Have you wondered how to know if you have found the one? How do you know that God is working in your matching process? What do you look for when you're faced with a decision to continue with the matching process for an eternal blessing or to discontinue that relationship? We're going to answer that question for you today on the podcast. With Andi, Jonasz, and myself. Today is an audio only. We didn't have video, but we have audio only today. We sat down as brothers to discuss this. It's very insightful. This is coming from real experience. We're not just fluffing. We're not just blowing smoke here. We are talking about real stuff that hopefully is very helpful. Our only desire and heart is to be helpful for you guys. So if it is, please share it with people in your life, your team, your matching team, because the only reason we do this is to spread it around through word of mouth. So please do so. If you have not yet subscribed or followed to this podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all the things we are on, please do so that we can spread this message to more people about how to get you matched and blessed in a healthy, productive way, but also in an expedient way, in a godly way, with God and without fear. So if that's you, join us in this cool episode with Andi, Jonasz, and myself, the three bros. All right, let's do it. Hey guys, welcome back to the MatchNet podcast. It's your boys. We are not video, but we're audio today.
What up, people?
We've got Andi Pak. How you doing, Andy?
Hey, good.
We've got Jonasz, something last name.
Yeah, Jonasz or Jonah, Chustrong, C-Z-Y-S-Z-C-Z-O-N.
Jonasz.
Welcome, people.
Yeah, we're in Seattle, Washington. We're having a staff retreat for the high noon staff retreat right now, and we were just having a late night, 10 p.m. conversation about how do you know you found the one? How do you know you found the right person? And so that is what we are going to be discussing right now and trying to dig into, unravel a bit. Because Andy's blessed, how many years now?
2 years.
2 years. He was on the podcast with Karen recently. I've been blessed for a few years. And Jonasz is going through some stuff and will be matched and blessed sometime.
I'm basically blessed for 50 years, secretly.
For 50 years. And so we were having some just good discussions, really healthy, wholesome conversations about how do you know? You know, if you have, let's say hypothetically, you had 20 people reach out to you. And let's say you had 20 people, right? Sisters, because we're brothers here talking. And everyone looks great. Everyone has faith. The foundations are there. God, your parents. Let's say that's the hypothetical. Then what do you look for? You know, when you start a conversation. That's what is hard to know, because if you can essentially make a great blessing with anyone because you have the foundations. So what do you actually look for from there? And so we were talking about that. But I just want to say that today, as we're recording, there's a Northern Lights Aurora Borealis happening here in Washington, right?
Yeah, a very historical event. You don't really have those around this area, but it's going to be pretty cool. Yesterday was really nice already. And
you saw it?
Yeah, I saw it. I hope today it's going to be as good as yesterday.
You know what's crazy is that I went all the way to Michigan one time from North Carolina just to see it. And it was cloudy and we didn't see it. And I'm just here by chance.
Right.
Happened to be stumbling upon Northern Lights here in Washington. So that's kind of crazy to me.
Yes, sir.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, we had no idea.
It's going to be epic.
Not even planned. Not even. No shadows, guys. All right. So there's a hypothetical. Jonasz, what is your thought on this currently? Like, what are you thinking? Like, what do you look for essentially?
Well, first of all, we started this conversation because I was asking you guys, and you guys, both of you guys are the people I really respect and admire as my older brothers. And yeah, definitely preparing by myself and preparing with my parents, we do see lots of things which are first of all coming from myself. So looking on my character, looking on the things which are good, looking on the things which I'm still working on, I think is the first step, at least for me, to be aware of myself and my goals and the potential I have. But I would say the values and the value system you have is very important. if this one, this is something what is coming from you quite often as well, Benji. You are saying that those are the things which are really important to search for at the first place. All the external things or preferences, they are not as important. So I'm probably gonna leave it like that for now. What do you think, guys?
Yeah. So let's say you have the foundations of similar faith, values, everything is aligned. I mean, you can find plenty of sisters that have your values
Right.
and mission, right? So if that's the case, then what do you go off of, essentially, you know? Any thoughts? Andy has a great testimony that, anyways, like, what is your conclusion on that?
On this question, well, we were talking before recording podcast. You mean like following your feeling?
Yeah.
The feeling, yeah. I mean, I think if you have multiple people and they're all good candidates, one sentence that stood out to me a lot in my matching preparation was from the book Boundaries. And it essentially said that if you want to marry the right person, you need to sacrifice talking to a lot of great potentials. And that really stood out to me because in preparing for the matching, sometimes I would get into my head. Like even when I was already, like just before starting the matching process with Karen, who's now my wife, I had this moment of like panicking where I talked with my parents. I was like, but there's these other people in my life. What about this friend that I have? We're like good friends already and foundation. What about this other person from my community? This and this. And in the end, it was good because I felt like I had to just get it out of my system and talk to my parents about it, just to throw these ideas out of my head.
Yeah.
So that I can just chill out and continue with our plan and what we had planned. But the point that I really wanted to practice, and when I went into the matching with Karen, actually, even before we started talking, I felt really guided into the process because of the things that had happened before, which I can get into later maybe. But another reason why I felt really clear going into the matching was because of a analogy that I was trying to practice. And Sammy actually had sent me this analogy.
Sammy who?
Sammy Uyama.
My Sammy?
Your Sammy.
My Sammy?
Uyama.
Your Sammy,
Your younger
actually.
brother, Sammy.
my big, younger, taller brother. Yeah.
So
He's my older brother, just to clarify.
Yeah.
He's older than me. So the world knows, officially. Everyone thinks I'm older. So I'm just saying. Let me interrupt you for a second, Andy.
yeah, just clarifying.
He's older. Keep your thought in your head. It's really important.
Yeah.
But I have to clarify this for the
not
world. Because I
digressing.
know people are going to be confused by this
Hate me
really
for it.
confusing conversation. Around.
Everybody gets confused.
Don't forget your thought, Andy. All right?
So
Don't
the
forget it.
thought was-
Let me clarify, all right?
I think I might have even
My brother Sammy.
your brother. I was
He's
sharing
older, 2 years older than me.
at the time that your 2 years older brother Sammy.
Yes.
He was my accountability partner at the time. I might have even shared this exact point with him that
For your drug addiction?
my drug
Let's be a
addiction.
little clear. For your heroin addiction? Accountability partner for what?
Oh, he was my accountability
For
partner for
ecstasy addiction?
sexual integrity. and
Okay,
hygiene.
sexual integrity.
Sure.
Got it.
But I was also sharing with him as I was getting into the matching process from time to time. Just as my older brother.
Right.
So I might have shared this specific point with him on, I'm starting this matching process, but other people are coming to my mind. And he shared this analogy with me that there was this experiment, social experiment they did, which is they presented two groups with chocolate. One group had 100 different types of chocolate, 100 options, and the other group had only 3 options. And the result was they were trying to measure how satisfied people felt with the choices they make. And the group that had 100 options, they would always feel less satisfied with their decision, with their choice, because they would always get into the head and get into what ifs, basically. Like, what if I had chosen the other one? Maybe the other one would have tasted better. What about the other 10 options? And they would compare a lot, like to all the other options they've had before. And so they were in their head and not satisfied. In the other group, that had only 3 options, it was much easier for them to just make a decision, just go with it, and the tendency was that they would always be much more satisfied with their decision in the end. So
you're saying that choosing a wife is as easy as choosing chocolate?
no, I don't think.
Did you get that, Jonasz? Is that the lesson
That
you
would
got?
be the drink, because I like
The
chocolate.
dream.
I'm just kidding, but that's all I'm hearing. That's like all I'm hearing when I. Anyways,
No, I think
what do
it's
you-
pretty clear, because eventually, having so many options, it's tricky, right? Yeah, but eventually, like I remember, I really like what you said, like what this one helped you exactly with, right? So having less thoughts about many people, but focusing on very few, right?
Yeah, well, it helped me to not, I think, compare so much in the
Right.
moment and set priorities. And I said, okay, right now I'm in this matching process and I'm going to give it my whole heart. And in the conversation, we'll figure out whether this is right, whether it feels right and has great potential, or whether there are any constraints or things holding us back. And I could just be present, I think, and not worry about what ifs and compare it to other options. And that was important for me. Yeah. Yeah, and so so because of that, I wanted to go into the matching process already with a feeling of I felt pretty committed to Karen in a sense already before we started speaking, because I felt like, okay, if this communication goes well and no red flags show up or deal breakers, nothing huge shows up, then I'd like to commit to this already. I wasn't really in the state of mind where I wanted to go in and test the waters and just try how it is and then change. But
Did you have any fear of making a wrong decision?
no, actually, no. And that at the point when I was getting into the matching process with Karen, and after I talked with my parents about after this day of like these other people that came to my mind, after that, I don't think I really was afraid of making a wrong decision anymore.
So you're just like, I'm just gonna commit to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, essentially, yeah, we were pretty clear. We were still kind of like, okay, we're going to give this couple months to like talk and ask each other questions and kind of go the proper route, so to speak.
You just did air quotations.
Yeah,
by the
air
way.
quotations.
Just so everyone knows. Proper route in
Yeah, like-
quotations.
7 months or whatever.
Oh my goodness.
And
General recommendation.
Yeah. But we felt really committed to each other, like really early on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we let each other know in the beginning of our matching process, if anything comes up, like any doubts, any worries, please communicate it so we can be honest about it and communicate about it. And no is always an option.
Right.
Like we're not forced, we're not obligated to say yes to each other because of our parents or because of anything. Yeah, which I think is really important. That I just felt it was really important that I am free to say yes or to say no. And I experienced other brothers actually who were really scared to death of saying no in the matching process. They felt like if I say yes to this matching through the communication, I'm saying yes to the person already. And I never got that because I always had the feeling of, you're not saying yes to the person. You're just starting to communicate to figure out whether you want to say yes.
Do you know what that fear is coming from?
Saying no?
Well, just saying, the fear of saying yes to having a conversation. Like, why is it that?
I think, I mean, I don't know if that is cliche, but like being afraid of committing or being afraid of making a wrong decision.
Fear, essentially.
Fear,
Yeah.
yeah. And insecurity.
Can you relate with that at all, Jonasz?
Yeah, personally, I can imagine that. Like, at least for myself, I see so many benefits of just going into it, like being the previous matching processes. You learn a lot eventually, and you get so many answers as well. But yes, it's also yes to not only a person, but lots of other things. You have to eventually. Yeah, it's a lot of headspace. It's a lot of focus, a lot of investment eventually. So I can relate personally to that as well. In my case, there is more excitement. I remember you were asking me about that. Is there more excitement or more fear? There's more excitement, then you're on the good side, right? But in my case, I really want to see the God's perspective as well. I strongly believe that there is the plan from God as well for my life and the potential in my blessing. And yeah, this is one of the concerns you have before you're even approaching anybody or before you're committing to talk to anybody. You're just asking yourself, is it really aligned with God or not? And well, I guess like you'll see or you'll find out eventually, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. So do you feel just this sharing that we've been having, do you feel like there's any key takeaways from you?
Well, I think eventually just before this podcast we're talking about ask the boys if they can give me any piece of advice, and Benjy was like, yeah, just go for it. And yeah, he's definitely practicing what he's preaching, because he said, oh yeah, let's record the podcast just like that. He was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, okay. So that was pretty quick. I can imagine that based on that there can be definitely more good than bad. You can definitely learn more by saying yes to the opportunity to work on yourself, taking ownership of your life and taking ownership of any conversation. I think this is one thing, and second, trusting God, trusting your God as well. Having a strong set of foundation, setting conditions to, like actually you, Andy, said that you took certain time to prepare yourself. Based on that, you had more clarity, you had more peace in your choices. So I would say those are kind of the two highlights I will take, two things I will take as really good tips. How about you guys?
Well, you forgot my analogy, my friend.
The chocolate?
No, not the chocolate. Women are not chocolate, my friends. Gee whiz, okay.
Wow.
We gotta learn some things about life. Women like chocolate, that's what it was. Oh yes, that's what it was. I was talking about the theory of growth.
Right.
Which is, I'll explain it again, but also for our listeners here, is that everything that is good in the universe, everything that is good for the world, everything that is good for God especially, wants to grow to its full potential as God intended it. Like a tree, you don't need much to grow a tree. If it's in the right environment, you don't need to water it every day, come over there with your hose and water the ground, and right? You don't need to. Right. It grows naturally, unless some external force comes and knocks it over, like someone with an axe or a chainsaw or a hurricane, natural disaster, things like that, right? But if you just let a tree grow with the support of the other trees and the ground and the roots, it'll grow to be a beautiful tree. And so humans are the same in that we naturally have a desire to grow through marriage and having children. Okay? It's ingrained in us. God gave us those desires. To have somebody, to have an intimate relationship with them and have children.
True.
Okay?
Yes.
Sexual energy. Why do we have that?
To grow.
It's to grow.
Yes.
It's because we choose, as people of faith, guys, as men that are good men, as you are, Jonasz and Andy, our desire is like, I want to grow. You guys both want kids, right? You know how many people don't want kids? You're like, I don't want kids. Why? Because it's annoying, okay? What's your priority in life? Money, travel. And I don't want to have kids because that interrupts both of those. Because that's your priority. But our priority is what?
5 kids.
5 kids. Okay.
At least for me.
All right. Chocolate. Okay. You're gonna, yeah. Okay. Anyways, so our priority is we want to experience God, right? How do we experience God? Through growth. We want to grow essentially. We want to grow. And so, if you give us the option of living a life alone and single with no children, or a life with a woman and having children, even though it's hard as hell, it is. We'll choose that every time because that's our priority. That's life to us. Okay? And we only have that desire because we are, like, that's a natural desire. But why do people hinder and stifle and stop that desire? Is because there's an external force that's coming into life that's cutting their tree down from the roots. So what is that force I'm talking about?
Fear.
Fear, but a specific type of fear. A fear that is holding you back. Okay? A fear in the form of shadows. And I see this way too much, and we have to talk about this, okay? Because especially people listening, like, don't we feel like there's something missing in our lives? I was giving the example today, I think, to the team in our meeting. There's people on, that are waking up every day, 100K 5 in the morning, waking up, witnessing fundraising all day, feeling great on top of the world, and then the evening succumbing to porn addiction and masturbating. And then reporting to me and saying, I'm doing this every day, what's going on? What's wrong with me? What is wrong with me? This is how people feel. Do we feel like there's something missing in people's lives? Right? There's a desire for 1,000 people to get blessed next year, 2025, as of recording. And what is stopping people from doing that? It's fear. Essentially, it's shadows. Shadows is the single thing that is stopping. That's the constraint that's keeping trees from growing to our full potential. And so if you remove the shadow, you can become that blessing. You can become that couple. You can become that family, create that blessed family that you want. Naturally, you will. And so I'm saying this for context for matching preparation. Jonasz, I'm 100% certain that you will make the right decision in the end.
Thank you.
I'm 100% sure, all right? And I say that because you are investing in yourself in the right ways. The conditions, the honesty, just living with no shadows, being honest about yourself to the best of your ability, right? You have it's like you will make the right decision and you will grow into that beautiful tree. Andy too, right? Myself as well. I got no shadows. I talk to everything about my wife, to my wife, not about my wife. I talk about everything. Well, I do about my wife and to my wife.
It's a combination.
Yeah. Actually, people know more about her on this podcast than she realizes because she doesn't listen to this podcast. She doesn't. She hasn't listened to a single episode. And I'm like, why don't you listen? She's like, I already know what you're saying. Like, all right, that's fair enough. Because I'm talking all the time. At home, we talk all the time about this stuff, and she agrees. It's like, if we live with shadows, it doesn't allow us to grow to our full potential. Just think about the fact that the vast majority of second generation individuals in our church struggle with porn and masturbation. The vast majority. We have surveys, okay? Heinun has done surveys on this. And when I give a talk, right? This is interesting and funny and sad. I gave a talk for the Blue Dragons pilgrimage a few weeks ago. So it's like 400 plus young adults. I gave my best at this talk. I prepared like crazy for this thing. I gave my whole testimony. I let it all out. Things I wasn't even comfortable sharing, I shared on that testimony, right? And then afterwards, they were all like doing their group discussions, and there was this little line of like a dozen guys like lining up next to the stage to talk to me as I was coming off. They wanted to talk. Right. And it was really adorable and sad because they're like, hey, thanks for the talk. I really appreciate it. I really resonate a lot with what you said. And, what you talked about with your sexual, porn habit and masturbation. And, how I'm like a young teenager and I just have a lot of hormones going on. And I was like, dude, got it. I got it. You struggle with porn. I understand, right? But you can see in their eyes just like the intense weight of shame they've been carrying. Even though they know that most people struggle with it, they just feel like I'm
a worthless person. Like, I'm a freak of nature. I'm a perverted freak of nature, and I'm weird. And I just look at them and I put my hand on their shoulder, like, it's all right. Like, I got you. Like, we'll talk about this. And what they need is they need to liberate themselves from those feelings of shame by just talking about it with the right person, you know? And so a huge emphasis in that talk was actually talking about your shadows with the right person. Because usually there's a specific shadow in a specific type of relationship with a specific person. And more than likely, those are the closest people to us, like a parent or a spouse if people are married, or a sibling sometimes, you know? For many people that are single, it's actually with a parent that they need to have these conversations. And so one guy was telling me that he wants to share with his parents, but he's so scared to because he knows that his mom is going to react. He wants to talk about his porn habit so desperately. He was like crying after I gave this talk because I want to tell my mom, but I can't because she's going to react so poorly. And I said, the reason you need to tell your mom about this is not for her, it's for you. It's for you to liberate yourself. So don't worry about how she reacts. She might react poorly. She probably will. She might, you know, she might not. It actually doesn't matter because it's not for her. It's more for you because you need to liberate something in your heart, right? And so he did. He decided to do that, and then he joined the Ascend program in Hainan, which is cool. So my point is, I'm bringing this all together because I feel like really confidently I can say that if somebody's living a practicing life with no shadows, which is like clean canvas, just clear conscience, and then enter matching process like that, like you will be very, very, very clear about making the right decision because your heart will be clear, your original mind will be able to speak to you. And ideally, if you have two people like that, it'll just be clear. It'll just like click, like this feels right, you know? Because you can see more clearly and not be clouded by all the stuff you're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's... oh yeah, do you want to go for it? Yeah, I can't really say that's a big point. Definitely shadows, they are holding you back. And I think there are multiple different ones as well. There's lots of distractions, which, yeah, you know, I'm part of Hainan as well for many years, and it's extremely helpful. I feel like I'm getting a superpower thanks to the fact that I'm able to express freely everything. I'm able to search for meaningful connections like with you guys, but still having a really clarity and lots of, like you said, being able to reach your original mind, being able to get to the source. And there's lots of distractions which can be definitely stopping you. They can definitely stop you from having really clear mind. So maybe Andy, you wanna share a little bit about it? Because I feel like you also had this clear choice of, again, going to the basics, being able to focus yourself on the priorities, work on yourself, and then you made your choice pretty clear as well, right?
Yeah, you mean by how prepared for that?
Yeah.
Make my decision? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what I can share is kind of what something that's out now was, and Benjy shares about it sometimes, is like acting according to our values and priorities, and not the other way around, right? Setting my priorities and my values according to however way I feel like acting, right? I think most people actually, when I heard this the first time, I realized most people live like that. They don't spend any time thinking about their values and priorities first. They just go with the flow in life and act however way they feel like. And then based on what they feel like and how they are already acting, they just say, oh, this is what's most important to me. Fun or pleasure or leisure. Because that's what I do all the time anyway. And it's the easiest way. But yeah, compared to that, living when like setting my priorities first and deciding this is what's valuable to me, these are my priorities in life, and that's what my actions are going to be centered on. makes a huge difference, I think, in the outcome that people will have in their lives. Yeah. So anyway, I think for me, how I prepared. Well, my testimony is that there's the story I think that I heard that Benjy you were sharing on a blessing workshop, I think online, about this true fathers matching once, and he was I think in New York or in America somewhere matching people, and there was this person who wasn't signed up for the matching, you know what story, and he was just driving people and not expecting anything. He wasn't participating, he was just driving people to the venue. And one of the times that he arrived there, father approached him and was like, you're ready, I'm going to match you today. And he was like, I'm not even signed up kind of thing, but you're ready. And I remembered that story so much, because what stood out to me was that, yeah, it felt like he was just continuously focusing on himself, not in a self-centered way, but in preparing himself and growing. And as he was doing that, he was becoming the right person, like ready to be with another person, ready to be matched. And Father could see that and match him. And that's very different, I think, from just being kind of on the lookout the whole time, like, okay, what kind of person do I want? What criteria do they need to fulfill? Who's the right person for me? You know, like custom tailoring my ideal spouse and trying to order it on Amazon Prime for spouses and clicking delivery.
Wow.
And it doesn't work like that.
Great analogies today.
I also got that from somebody else.
Woman in a package. Let's unpack
Chocolate
it
and Amazon. But I think many people treat it like that. That, yeah, we can just, that the blessing and matching is just something that we can order and it's going to be delivered, and kind of thing. And I think most people get really disappointed actually by that, when they go through matching and somebody says no, or they don't like them, or they expected way too much. And so, yeah, anyway, my testimony in short is that what happened? I started wanting to prepare for the matching, and I was struggling a lot with my sexual integrity actually. And I shared with my parents. I had shared with my parents many times before actually about my sexual integrity on an ongoing base. And this was before I joined High Noon. So I shared to them, I want to start preparing for the matching, and I already have a suggestion actually. And we were seriously considering it. And they knew I was still struggling with my sexual integrity. But my dad said, I think it's good that you want to do both, like work on your sexual integrity and prepare for the matching. And not hold back too much, because otherwise things can become really vague and ambivalent. Like, when will I be ready? How perfect do I have to be to start the matching? And this kind of puts it into perspective that, okay, I am working on myself for a very specific reason. And it was interesting because I was suggesting somebody in kind of growing and recovering my sexual integrity. I kind of had a vision, I guess, of somebody I was hoping for. It wasn't clear that was going to work out. And so my growth in sexual integrity and working on myself worked really well for many months actually. And eventually we approached anonymously, but twice, but the person wasn't ready. And it looked like it was not going to work out. And that was kind of taken from me. And the reality was, okay, maybe this matching will not going to work out. And that vision was kind of taken away. And I started struggling a lot again with my sexual integrity at that point. I started having relapses, and I realized that, okay, this was not a strong enough reason for me, just having one person. And if that person is gone, I'm going back to porn and masturbation. And I need to find reasons for myself. Why do I want to overcome this? Who do I want to be going into the matching? And not so much focused on the other person. And at that time, it was kind of similar situation. I was getting really stressed out and pressured to make a decision at that time, because I felt like, do I want to wait and try to approach the same person again because I felt invested, or my parents were having a couple of requests at the time. Somebody approached me personally and was like, I know somebody who would be a great option for you maybe, and I felt really pressured to make a decision in the moment. At that time, I was really afraid of making a wrong decision, like what does God want me to do? And at that time, I sought out a mentor and wanted to get into therapy to really dig deeper in understanding like where did my sexual integrity problems come from and why did I have them. And my mentor told me, I think you can just chill out for the next couple of months and just focus on yourself and your growth, as this will help you prepare for communication with the sister and for the matching. So just for these 6 months, focus on your growth and on our course. And then you can still decide whether you want to try again or move on and try with another person in the matching. And I was so liberated at that moment. And I made a very clear commitment that day. And I committed that I'm not available for the matching for 6 months. Not even if the person that I was suggesting and hoping for is coming and, you know, approaching me, I'm not available, because I will work on myself and figure this out. And after this time, I will start again. That was how I felt, how clear I have to be to not get wishy-washy in the process. Right. Yeah. So that time was, I think, very pivotal for me, to just focus on my growth and become the right person. And after those 6 months, I continued therapy, but I was very clear that, okay, now I'm starting the matching again. I'm going to look for somebody, and God, I'm going to do this 12-day condition. And at the end, I'm going to make my move and I'm going to approach somebody, basically. And yeah, and then when that was, I think I was really clear in that, and things started moving really fast. My plan was that I wanted to approach this first sister again that I had suggested, to make a clean slate, because there was never clear yes, never clear no for me. And I didn't feel like I had a clear conscience, I guess, to approach somebody new yet. So I was kind of telling God in my prayers, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And in the last 3 days of my condition, this matching supporter approached me, who he had sent a request to my parents before about Karen, who's now my wife. And I heard back then that she had sent a request and he was there. And that was when I was not available. I skipped a few steps. It's gonna be, I think it's gonna be complicated now. Anyway, it's
yeah.
So in that condition, it reminded me of a time when I met Karen very briefly on a workshop, which was at the very beginning when I was just preparing for the matching process. And we had a very short conversation with her. And we were just talking about what we were doing on the workshop, and I asked her about her experience with God and GPA. And it was 2 very short conversations. And the thing that I remember from these conversations, I don't remember the words really a lot, was just that I had a really good feeling about her. And it wasn't so much attraction. It was a lot like I've known her for like a long time already. Like it felt really familiar. And Karen, if she shares, she had a really similar feeling actually, that she felt that she was able to share about God, her experience and faith, like really naturally, and it was understood. And she didn't have to justify or explain it so much. Like she had this feeling a lot with most other people. And so that really stood out to her. And at the time, I remember even leaving the conversation and thinking like, wow, this was really interesting. I think this is the kind of feeling I would want to tell my parents about. But at the time, I didn't say anything because we were already preparing to make a matching approach. So fast forward, when I was after my 6 months of therapy, and I was clear I'm going to make a move again, and I was preparing to approach this first sister in the matching approach, and Karen's old matching supporter just messaged me out of the blue. It reminded me of the feeling that I had over a year ago when I met Karen for a really brief moment, and I got really confused again. Like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Why is this Karen Ishiguro popping up in my life all of a sudden again? but actually I felt like things started moving really fast from the moment that I said I'm ready to like get matched now. And on the last day of my condition, I had a really interesting experience. I was just praying, but I had this strong feeling of I just must not speak in my prayer today. I just have to listen. And this, as I was walking, and it was really quiet, like my head was really quiet, there were no thoughts. Just this one really strong thought or feeling came up, and it was, oh, it's not gonna work out. This first matching approach, it's not gonna work out. And that was it. And so I decided in the end, okay, God, I don't know what's right or wrong. I'm just gonna go with the plan I had, but if it doesn't work out, then it's a clear no and I can move on. And in the end, that's what happened. And we had a conversation with that sister, and we were going into completely different directions. And that was a clear no. And so after that, and after I recovered from that, I felt really clear that, yeah, I feel like I feel guided to approach Karen's family again. Yeah, and so that's why I think going into the matching process with Karen, I felt really clear beforehand already that, okay, we'll just talk. And if it works out, then I'm ready to commit. And if anything, red flags or deal breakers come up, then we'll talk about it. Yeah.
So would you say that if you wouldn't take this time for yourself and working on yourself, you wouldn't have this clarity to make a right choice?
Yeah, I think my choices would have been really messy at the time because I was really confused. And I think it would have been okay, actually, because even if I had said yes to communicating with somebody, I think we could have figured it out. Yeah, I think I would still have figured it out. I just felt at the time that I just didn't feel ready to actually communicate because I knew that my head was thinking about other people, and I was distracted a lot and not so clear at the time. And there were shadows in my life that I hadn't fully addressed yet. And so I felt like I really wanted to take time off of having to make a decision in the matching and just clarify those shadows first and shed light on them and be really clear on my priorities in the matching and then move forward. So for me, that really helped me. Yeah.
Is there any, Jonasz, lesson there? Takeaway from Andy's story?
Yeah, definitely having clarity is helpful, right? I mean, it's quite easy to get lost with many external factors, right? Especially if you know very strongly what you want, what kind of life you want to create. Could be very helpful to maybe take some time off to be able to go very deeply inside. Because quite often you need to sacrifice something in order to get your mind space. Like we talked recently about business, right? It occupies so much time and attention. So basically it's taxing on your mind space, head space. Yeah, I think here the same, right, Andy? You had this time off to really work on yourself, clear your shadows, and eventually maybe even that feeling you had about Karen was coming from this foundation you built, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. There was a lot of clarity, and it was also, I guess, we really followed this feeling or intuition that when I went to the matching process, it just felt right. Like it felt really right. And I didn't really have to think so much about logical reasons why this is a good matching process, why this is the right person. I was trying to think and use my head and be like, okay, God, can I be the right person? Can I be the right husband? Can I create a good family? But that was actually not the deciding factor or reason in the end. It was kind of, it felt right. And the first question when we had our first conversation in the matching process that Karen asked me was, what is your expectation and vision for the blessing? Because if it's too different, then we don't need to have more calls, actually. Because if that doesn't align, then nothing else is going to work
Right.
out. And
Straightforward.
yeah, nothing else is going to compensate for that. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Andy, for sharing your story. One thing that I got is that actually new revelation for me is that there is value in just being clear about decision.
Yeah.
And just decide it. Like you just decided. You're like, I'm going to make it work. And I see a lot of value in that. And I kind of see this a lot. Like we talk a lot about community. We were talking about this earlier with the guys, is that people I talk to, especially like young families, are so obsessed with finding a community.
Denver, Colorado.
Oh my goodness. God bless you guys in Denver. But how many people I freaking talk to like, I'm going to move to Denver because that's where the community is. Guys, let me make this really clear. I think community is amazing. Community is really important. But I think we would benefit more from just making a community where we are and sticking with it and just deciding this is where I'm going to live until it doesn't make sense, until there's a reason. But how much of people's mental real estate is consumed by where should I live is astronomical. And it's the same thing that happens with choosing a spouse.
Right.
In Jonasz's example, for example, it's like, I was saying like half of your brain is taken up by matching preparation, right?
Yeah.
It's like the conditions
it's
you're
a lot,
doing,
no?
the things you're doing, the conversations, communications, the reporting. It's like more than half of your headspace is like preparing for matching. But when you just decide, what happens is suddenly you're liberated because you just are like, I'm going to make this work. And you don't even have to think about all the other chocolate options. You're just like, I'm making this work. And the same with community. And this is my point, is like you just decide, this is where I'm living and I'm going to make a community here. And it's liberating because you free up so much of your attention to focus on just making it the best place to live and also best community and also the best spouse in marriage. You just make it work. Case in point, Father asked me in my matching, choose a spouse from 70 plus women, okay? All beautiful, great, fantastic, life of faith, all the things. Well, I actually didn't know anything about them because I didn't have a chance to talk to them.
They're crying, right?
Well, yeah, okay. My testimony is interesting. I was telling Jonasz earlier, and he was having his mind blown.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because all the sisters were looking at their feet. Most of them were looking at their feet, understandably, but my wife was looking around confidently at everyone in the eyes, and that's what stuck out to me. And so I went through these sisters, 70 sisters, and then she was the only one that stood out to me. And I went through again just to make sure, like, was there anyone else that stood out to me? And I just, like, I stopped and I put my hand out. And I just was like in the moment, my thought was, if I don't take her, someone's going to take her. That's actually what I thought. And then I stopped to put my hand up. I was going to go through again, actually. Like, go through all the sisters again, or maybe twice or 3 times more just to look at everyone. But I just stopped and I put my hand out. I was like, you're mine, like that. And of course, she has to receive it. That's her portion of responsibility, to go halfway and meet me. She has to receive my hand. And she hesitated, but she received my hand. All right? We were the first couple in that group. I was the first person in the group to approach someone. And my lesson from myself at 18 years old was that I just went for it. And here's the thing. I will never know that it was the right decision. I will never know. I will never know that it was the one God was guiding me to. I will never know. I believe it is because I choose it to be. And because I'm committed to making it work no matter what. But I'll never know. And so that's like the theme that I'm hearing here, is like people that really succeed in just life and in marriage is like, this is the marriage that I'm choosing and I'm going to make it work. This is the business that I'm choosing and I'm going to make it work no matter what. This is the career path I'm going down and I'm going to make it work. And so what happens is we free up the attention and time and headspace to actually focus on it, and we just say no to all the other chocolate, right? It's like, this is it. This is the path. And that's a really powerful way to live. And so I'm saying this because, for context, in my matching, Father told us the only things he said, there were 2 things he said that I remembered because it was very short. He said, if you choose somebody, God will support you. And that's what he said. And I understood what he said because I got it. Because until that point, actually, Jonasz, my whole thinking was like, I want Father to do everything for me because I don't trust myself. Right? I understand that. I don't trust me.
Right.
I don't trust my parents.
That's why you went for that
That's
blessing, right?
why the freak I went to True Father. I was like, hey, can you choose my spouse for me? Thank you very much. I will receive it with absolute faith and obedience. Adieu. And then he was like, you know what? Choose your own spouse, and you'll not regret it. You'll make it work, and you'll take ownership, and God will work through that. And then after freaking out for like 5 minutes, I was like, okay, I get it. I got what he was saying. And he was saying to me is that I have the foundation. I have it. I have no shadows. I had no shadows. I had faith in God, true parents. I knew where I wanted to go. I had a vision to create a blessed family. And in that context, you put two people together like that, and you take ownership of it. Importantly, God will support that. That is the path. That's what Father was saying. The path of you taking full ownership is the way that God wants you to work. Because it has to be. It has to be that portion of responsibility. God can't take it.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like, can't. You have to take it. Even if God comes to you in dream and says, marry this person, right?
Yep.
That's your brother's testimony to give.
Basically my brother.
Yeah, that's his testimony to give, which never happens to anyone. But even if that happens, right? Marry this person. You still have to say, right? You still, both parties still have to say yes, and then they have to make it work. So the power of just making clear decisions is like, you can't logic your way through it. You just have to say, you know what? Okay, feels good, makes sense, let's go, right?
Right.
So we're actually going to go right now to the Northern Lights. Yeah, let's go to the Northern Lights. Here in Washington, we have Uncle Dave and Aunt Mitsue here that are taking us out to Westport. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Anything of that wrap up?
That's cool.
That's good to have older bros with whom we can share your concerns and questions and all of it. But that's why we need to be connected and go for clearing up those shadows. Go freely and talk with people. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thank you. We're also about to open Andy Pock's new brand new iPhone he got for his birthday from the community. We'll record a video and then we'll put that at the end of this episode. Only on YouTube though, because we'll unbox it for you guys that he got for his birthday.
Yes, thank you, everyone. If you're listening to this and you contributed to this game.
And we'll send this episode to everybody that contributed, and you guys can share it. That's marketing, yo.
All right, that's a wrap, people.
All right, let's do it. That's awesome.
Peace out. No say.
Let's unpack.
Hello.
His colors matter, man.
Konnichiwa.
Nope. He just read some random language,
This
and he said, "Konnichiwa." No, there you go. That's
Yeah,
cool.
konnichiwa.
It's konnichiwa.
this.
Ni hao ma.
English.
Yeah, that was also something you got your country already.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, right now.